Welcome to episode 10 of the XDI Experience Show. Each week we bring you thinking across people, performance, innovation, engineering, and smarter manufacturing for the fourth industrial revolution. Today we're talking automotive, electric vehicle, implementing 3D experience, and building the bill of materials in an engineer to order and configure to order environment. Good evening, India. Good afternoon, Europe, and good morning, United States. There's a comment section below. Please make them. Ask questions, because truly contextualizing what it is we're talking about to your environment is what this show is all about. Today, I am joined by a neighbor, a 28-year PLMer, a multi-industry expert, fresh off the back of a 3D experience implementation with one of the longest standing electric vehicle companies. Welcome to Andreas Lindenthal. Ready, set, go. I feel like I'm coming fresh off the Gladiator movie. That makes you Russell Crowe, of old, not of today, I might add. But good morning, Andreas. How are you?
Good morning, everyone, and good morning, Andrew. I'm doing great, thank you. How are you?
Good. It's kind of weird. You're just next door, down the road, and here we are in different environments. That is the world we live in today, I guess.
Yep, that is the world of COVID, indeed.
You bet. Today we are going quick fire round, understanding what you've been through over the last few months in electric vehicle and product lifecycle environment, the difficulties you faced, and with the learnings that you came out with. At the end, we're going to spit it out to our audience to grab some questions. So please, everyone, get on those comments. Please ask questions as you think of them, ask them, and we will pick them up either during the course of the show, at the end of the show, and if not, right after, we'll be into that comment section and answering back to you. Andreas will be there with us doing all of that. That's great.
Sure.
Andreas, this is something that you and I have been wanting to do for quite some time. We never got quite to it. I am glad we're doing it right now.
For sure.
Let us jump in with our quick fire round. We're going to give you 4 minutes to get through 4 questions to stop the clock. BOM, 3DX, PLM, and COVID, all in the same questioning. 2, 1, let's go. Andreas, what are your top 3 biggest challenges in an ETO environment?
Well, I would say, accurately identifying the effort and the time to delivery and the ultimate cost of the product, because at the time of the order, the product is generally not fully defined, and there are parts of the final product that need to be developed. Mm-hmm. That's one. Number 2 is defining different product platforms, effective product structures, as well as possible variants, options, and alternates that can be shared across the different platforms and products up front to reduce engineering efforts as much as possible. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. The goal is to define what I would call an 80% BOM that consists of as many existing variants, options, and alternates as possible that can be selected at the time of the order, and only leave about 20%, or ideally even less, that need to actually be engineered after the order is received.
Yep.
And then the last point would be identifying and managing long lead items. These usually determine the overall delivery time. Hence, they should be sourced as soon as possible after the custom order is received. And this in turn means that a process should be defined and be in place that allows ordering long lead items before the final customer BOM is released.
Okay. 2, which would you prefer to implement if you could choose between ETO or CTO?
CTO, if it's possible, clearly to define all configurations options up front, because it's easier and faster when an order is received. In an ETO environment, there are always these uncertainties that need to be worked out before a product can be manufactured and shipped, which of course can affect delivery cost and time. On the other hand, of course, a CTO environment is less flexible, so a customer is limited to the configuration options that are defined at the time of the order.
Yep. Okay. 1 BOM or multiple BOMs?
Yeah, that's always a major point of discussion in every PLM project. But my experience is that using multiple BOMs is generally not only advantageous, but necessary. It allows manufacturing engineering to plan the production using the manufacturing BOM, while engineering is still working on the EBOM. It also allows to create multiple BOMs for different manufacturing locations that are, different from each other. And it ultimately allows having a customer-specific service BOM or XBOM for every vehicle for product maintenance that keeps track of all changes of a specific product in the field.
Yep. Got it. Okay. And last question, 1.25 minutes. In installing a collaborative platform such as 3D Experience, do you prefer now to work from home or on site?
Well, until about 4 months ago, I would have said that on site. And I might even have added that it would be very difficult, if not impossible, to do an entire PLM implementation project completely remotely.
Yeah.
But having now gone through this experience, having implemented a complex PLM project basically from the beginning to the end, so from design, deployment, go live, etc., with everyone working remotely, I'd have to say that if the right tools are in place, good online meeting tools, instant messaging tools, etc., and if people are willing to work that way, it can absolutely and successfully be done remotely.
Interesting. You made it. 20 seconds to spare. That was fun. Let's see, with a few seconds to go. Any thoughts from the audience come in? Have we got anything? Does everybody agree with you? Okay, 1. Okay, Maima, how can you really know the business is on board with the new system when everyone is working from home?
Yeah, good question. Well, constant communication with everyone, daily project management meetings, being in touch with the users. We had a core team identified with business owners, key users, subject matter experts, etc., and just feeling the temperature, asking everyone, are you good with that? And do you agree?
Interesting. Amazing, isn't it? It's where we're going now. Amazing. Hold on, We got another one come in. How do you establish the digital thread between EBOM, MBOM, and SBOM? Thank you, Mohammed. Much appreciated. Do you want to pick that up now?
I think I'm going to defer to a little bit later because I think we're going to talk about that a little bit later.
Mohammed, stick around. We're going to be back to that in probably 15, 20 minutes. Appreciate you sticking around. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the main discussion, the main Q&A. We're going to explore now what you've been going through with COVID and at the same time implementing PLM. So, Andreas, you're rolling off a go live 3D Experience install in the automotive ASIS sector. How was it?
Well, I think, overall it went really well. I mean, the customer was using SolidWorks and EPDM in one of the business units and CATIA V5 in the other business unit. And they wanted to consolidate those systems into a unified environment with only one CAD and one PLM system for the entire company. And they wanted to do full PLM with CAD data management, document management, EBOM, MBOM management, change management, quality management, supply chain management, manufacturing process, like really everything, and an ERP integration. So it was a fairly complex project.
It proves the power of PLM. It's everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Great. No, I mean, the plan was great. We had a strategy in place to support that project. And, again, it went really well. So, after a methodical evaluation in which we looked at the number of different PLM systems, the customer ultimately selected the 3D Experience platform, including CATIA, Enovia, and Delmia.
Why did they go 3D Experience?
Well, 3D Experience was ultimately just the best fit for the engineer-to-order environment of this company. The system best met all the requirements across all the functional areas, and the users really liked the user interface, which was consistent across all functional modules. And performance-wise, 3D Experience was best able to deal with these large assemblies the customer had, which consist of tens of thousands of components for just one vehicle.
So was it on-prem or was it cloud?
We actually deployed the new system on the cloud using Amazon Web Services, and the performance improvement was just unbelievable. Before, it would take the customer 30 minutes or longer even to load only a partial bus assembly in SolidWorks and with EPDM, and with 3D Experience it took about 2 minutes to load a complete bus assembly. The users, honestly, we all were stunned about the level of improvement, and the decision to go with AWS also turned out great in the end, given what happened when COVID hit in the middle of the project.
Got it. I'm just going back, bus assembly, thousands of components. That is a massive data migration challenge, especially when you're trying to pull SolidWorks CATIA V5 up into a 3D Experience environment. How did you get on with that?
Yeah, I mean, it was indeed a huge challenge. The 10,000 parts is just one vehicle. In total, we migrated over 500,000 objects from SolidWorks EPDM to CATIA and CATIA V5 to 3D Experience, Novia, CATIA V6. The main challenge was the approach that was initially proposed using the Power By functionality of 3D Experience really did not work as we needed. Okay. So we had to change our approach mid-project. But the approach we ultimately used when we converted the SolidWorks data to CATIA V6 actually produced better results in the end. So it actually worked out great.
Look, I've never been on a project that was just plain sailing. There always tends to be some kind of major issue. Nothing ever quite goes to plan. Let's look at what potentially went wrong. Let's look at the hard yards, what you had to go through. Let's look a little bit at the conflict that you experienced. So, Andreas, what was the hardest part of the project? The most difficult parts of the project were clearly the data migration, the project management, and organizational change management, because everything had to be done remotely. And then the transition from the old to the new environment, which really had to be completely seamless because there were ongoing projects that the customer had to be done. And they had to be moved to the new system in the middle of the delivery of that project. And it, of course, could not impact the schedule or the delivery of the project. So, basically, all the historical data had to be brought over because the customer needed them for ongoing projects. So, as I said, it initially was recommended to using SolidWorks data with the Power By functionality of 3D Experience, but that unfortunately didn't work as desired. So in the middle of the project, we had to change that approach to converting all the SolidWorks data to CATIA V6 format. Big risk. How did you, as program lead, that's a big one to have to handle. What was your strategy? Do you remember and how did you execute on that? Well,
we had to, of course, test the new approach first in detail, whether it would work with, and would provide the desired results. We basically had to do a feasibility analysis in the middle of the project. This took about a week because we had to look at all the special situations and expectations and exceptions and everything. And then we had to re-baseline and replan the entire project because, of course, we had to do some additional data migration, testing, etc., with the new approach. And then, of course, we had to get approval from the business and from management. And so all this took another week approximately. The good news is that everything worked well in the end, and we actually have better results. Because now all the historical data was in CATIA V6 format and managed in 3D Experience and Novia. And then, of course, we also had to overcome some resistance of users who were just not used to doing everything in a PLM environment and who basically had to switch from SolidWorks to CATIA. But once they understood what the benefits were for the company, they accepted, that some of the users had to actually do some more work so that the rest of the company could work more efficiently.
In the middle of a project, a 1 week turnaround on schedule, that's no mean feat. That's pretty good going, I've got to say, as well as then kind of shifting the SolidWorks move fast, a little bit looser than the standard CATIA type of guys. So that's a big people change management issue, especially in the middle of COVID as well.
Yeah.
Most projects at this time were stopping dead in their tracks. How did you get through all of that?
Well, that, of course, was a challenge. As I said, we were about halfway into the project, so we actually had just completed the second of 6 sprints when the states basically imposed this stay-at-home order.
Yep.
So, everyone was basically stuck at home. Yep. Fortunately, we had earlier made the decision to deploy on the cloud. That helped a lot because everything there was already virtual. And then the bigger challenge really was that from that point on, obviously, all meetings, the design, development, testing, training, everything had to be done remotely.
Yeah.
So, we made an assessment whether it was possible and asked the core team in the business if they would be okay doing everything remotely. And they said yes. So we did it, and it worked really well in the end. And we had this part did not cause any delays in the project.
Good going. Okay.
Yep.
I really want to talk bill of materials. Your approach to that. And so, what was your approach to the BOM build? Did you go one? Did you go multiple? Do you have a C BOM, S BOM, E BOM, etc., etc.? Tell me about it.
Well, we had multiple BOMs. So given the need that the customer had to do things in parallel, meaning release part of the BOM to manufacturing while engineering was still working on the design of the remaining BOM, of the engineering part of the BOM, we decided that we would go with a separate E BOM and M BOM.
Yeah.
And the M BOM basically specific to each manufacturing facility. We also decided to have a customer-specific BOM or a service BOM for each vehicle, just to ensure that we would or could keep track of the configuration changes for each vehicle when it was serviced in the field.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the whole synchronization, the massive change management exercise you would have to go through, going with a single BOM would have been pretty much out of the question. Step too far, I guess.
Well, there's often the desire to have only one BOM to avoid problems with synchronizing the different BOMs and make change management easier. And we actually looked at that, whether this would be possible for the customer. But from a business point of view, it made just no sense. The benefits we had from having different BOMs, an E BOM and an M BOM and service BOM, just far outweighed the benefits of having only one BOM. And I also want to clarify, we did implement the unified product structure or UPS of 3D Experience, meaning the different BOMs share basically the same components. And we are basically just creating different BOM views of the same product structure. And then in addition, 3D Experience has all the great tools to make it easy to create and manage the different BOMs, keep the items in sync, and change them all together if needed.
Got it. So no plans to move to a single BOM in the future then?
No, not at all. No, really. The approach we chose is the best for this customer. It allows them to do things in parallel, finish engineering of the vehicle while the configured components are already being released to manufacturing. And it allows them to manufacture the same vehicle at the various locations that they have in different ways, because the machines are different, the assembly lines are different. And also, of course, it allows them to keep track of the different vehicle configurations as they're being serviced.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so let's talk learnings. What did you learn, and what are your firm rules for the future?
Well, for one, with good project management, good organizational change management, and good project management and collaboration tools, it is absolutely possible to implement even a complex PLM project entirely remotely. Of course, it's important to have a proven implementation methodology to complete the project more efficiently and keep things on track. But yes, it absolutely is possible.
I get that, but how do you keep everyone in a kind of a tight ship, all on the same page, all heading in the same direction, and zero politics?
Well, there's always politics, but I think the key was, number one, great communication, very good organization of the project. So we had a core team consisting of business owners, subject matter experts, just different team members, data migration experts, etc. And then we had daily project management PMO meetings. We had weekly status meetings where we basically communicated everything with the business, what was coming up, so everyone knew what they had to do.
Yep.
It just requires really, really tight project management.
Got it. Okay. What other rules? Any others?
Well, two is, deploying a complex PLM solution on the cloud is certainly not only possible today, but probably even preferable. Even if there are large assemblies and huge data volumes involved. Certainly something that I learned out of that project.
Interesting. Okay. Anything else?
Data migration is clearly one of the most challenging parts of a PLM project. It is critically important to do a very thorough analysis of the existing data and to test the selected approach really basically all the way through, just to make sure that it works for all the data. Yeah. So, don't believe anyone if they tell you it works. Test it with your own data to see for yourself that in fact will work.
Just from everything you've said, it sounded like this is a total agile sprint program. Did you use any kind of waterfall approach to this?
Yeah, our implementation methodology basically has 5 stages: plan, design, build, test, and deploy. But then within the design, build, and test, we have an agile approach where we go through a variety of sprints.
So you blended it basically.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Any other hard and fast rules to take it forward here on in?
Yeah, I would say plan in some reserves from the beginning, both in the schedule as well as the costs. Every complex project, as you said, will face some unforeseen challenges. And in this case, it was COVID and the data migration. Fortunately, we had these project reserves planned in from the beginning, and they allowed us to absorb basically the impact of these issues and complete the project successfully.
Great. Good.
And then lastly, I clearly would also say that work with an experienced partner who has successfully completed a PLM project of a similar complexity before and has been around the block a few times. This will clearly help to move the project forward, even if there are such challenges.
You bet. Okay, last question. And you may have already answered it, but there may be some additions. So if you could wind the clock back, do it all over again, what would you do different?
Well, again, the data migration, that was a huge challenge, and really just look from the beginning at all the data and test it thoroughly before you decide on an approach. And the second part is really given the experience that we had in this project, I would say consider doing a project even of that complexity remotely. You can save a lot of money on expenses. Typically, a normal project of this size has 10 to 15% project expenses budgeted.
Yep.
And you can probably cut significantly back on that. Again, it takes good project management, good organizational change management, but in the end, you probably save, 10-15%.
Interesting. The new norm, hey?
The new norm.
You got it. Thanks so much, Andreas. Right, let us spin it out to the audience. See what questions we've got coming in. Let's see what we got. If you're ready for these, first up, how long did your PLM implementation project take being remote? Thank you, Mikala.
Yeah, we basically had 3 phases and the whole project took about a little over a year. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Now, hopefully that answers your question, Mikhaila. Chime up again if you'd like to ask another. Any other questions? Shakti, how much configuration and or customization of 3D Experience Innovia was required? Good question.
Yeah, good question. Yeah. Our plan in the beginning was to get away with no customization whatsoever, to just really stick with configuration. We did build in though some money and budget for customizations. So I mean, I would say we definitely customized it a little bit. Some specific processes were customized. Hard to quantify, but I would say, probably in the end, about 10% of the budget, of the project budget, was probably customization.
Okay, fair enough. Got it. Next question. What do we got? Kuldeep Devani, thank you, Kuldeep. How was performance of 3D Experience tool perceived by the customer?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I mean, the customer was really happy with the performance. And again, I would say at some point even stunned when they were able to open a whole vehicle assembly in minutes, as opposed to before. They weren't even able in SolidWorks and EPDM to open a whole vehicle assembly. But even a partial assembly would take 30 minutes.
Wow. Good. There you go. Hopefully that answers your question, Kuldeep. Any other questions? What else have we got? Mikhaila, thank you, coming back. What were the specific challenges faced with PowerBuy?
Well, the migration tool did not work as desired. So we just couldn't really get the desired structure into Innovia. So that was a problem. And then the other problem was, once we were in Innovia, we could not change the PowerBuy assemblies. So even though we had an assembly structure in Innovia, if it was a PowerBuy or SolidWorks structure, you could not change that anymore.
Okay.
So that was a problem going forward, obviously, because we had to make changes to existing BOMs.
Yep.
So that was one of the big problems that we discovered, and then decided to go a different way.
Yeah. And especially you had enough on your plate, you were moving at speed, you've got customer, individual, EBOM, MBOMs. So yeah, challenging. Okay, got it. Yep. Next question. Shankar, thank you. Was component criticality matrix solution established as part of your implementation? And if yes, how the criticality is maintained and traced for components?
Okay, can you explain what you exactly mean by component criticality matrix? I mean, I can probably imagine what it is, but can you explain?
Maybe you take a bit of assumption while Shankar redrafts slightly his question. Yeah. Shankar, if you could do that, that would be appreciated. So let's pull.
Yeah. Go ahead. Well, I know, Shankar, if you're talking about 80% of the or like 20% of the components are used for the most part of the project. Yes, absolutely, we did that. Yes, we clearly identified which are the critical components of the vehicle. Mm-hmm. And focused on those first. Yeah.
Okay, good. Shankar, keep going. If you want to give a little more definition to your question, go right ahead. If not, what's the next question we got? Cody, welcome back. Can you please elaborate a little more on unified BOM versus multiple BOMs? Okay,
yeah. So 3DX has a new concept of what's called unified product structure. And basically, it is a product structure where all the components are basically included that are part of this product. And then you just look at it in different ways. You look at it in an MBOM view, and you look at it as an EBOM view. But it's really the same component that is on all product structures. So if you change the component here, the change automatically goes through to all the different BOMs.
Okay.
Hope that answers the question.
Good. Fire again. If not, let us know. Next question. We have some more. David Beadle. David, thank you. Did your BOM approach across engineering, manufacturing, and service include software revisioning, including SOA updates?
We only managed executables as part of the BOM. So no, we did not do software revisioning in a sense that as part of software development, no. But if there was a new executable, that of course had a new revision, and that was attached to the BOM. Yes.
Got it. Good. Next question. John Mitchell. Thanks, John. I always find it unhelpful to call a project agile when it's essentially waterfall. Really enjoying the other aspects, however. You want to comment on that?
Sure, yeah.
It's an overused term, I'll be honest, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as I said, it was a mixed approach. It clearly it wasn't 100% agile. I think the reason for that is also that in a large project like this, I think it's important to do the planning and the part of the design up front.
Yeah.
That you understand what the overall architecture of the solution is going to be, that you're not getting in a situation where you're 3/4 through the project and then you do another sprint back then, and all of a sudden you determine that something you need to do back here actually affects everything that you already did before. So I think that's why it's important to do at least the high-level design up front, and then you go into the more detailed design as you go through the different sprints.
Yep. Very good. Okay, next question. John, what would you think that working remotely extends the length of the project?
In our case, it did not, no. The only thing that for us affected the delivery of the project schedule was the data migration that we basically, again, we had to change the approach. But
yeah,
the fact that we had to work remotely did not affect the project schedule. We stayed on that same schedule, whether it was remotely or not.
Interesting. And by the sounds of it, the business were pretty happy, and the users accepted it, and they're using that system, and they're happy with it.
Yep. Yeah, very much so. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Next question. Cody, back. Thank you. Please share your experience handling managing software parts, if any. Thanks.
Well, as I mentioned, we just managed software executables, so we did not manage the software development itself in Innovia. We just basically, the executables were then managed as objects as part of the BOM, or a part basically as part of the BOM, and revisioned. If there was a new executable, then it would be revised and added to the BOM as part of a normal change process.
Very good. Okay, next question. We got any more? John, was there a need to change your item numbers? Did you go for significant or non-significant part numbers?
Yes, there was a need to change item numbers, yes. And we ultimately went with a non-significant numbering schema. Okay. In the beginning, it was significant, but it was the better approach.
Yep. Okay. Any more questions? Andy, welcome, Andy. When migrating legacy parts out of SolidWorks, did you validate them or a proportion of them in the CATIA to ensure that there was no migration errors? Yes,
of course. Yeah, of course we had to do that. Yeah, we did both. We validated them, in SolidWorks first. Of course, not all of them, but a cross section. And then, of course, after each test migration, we looked at the quality of the data and looked at, were they geometrically correct? Were all the features there that were in the original one? Yeah, just everything really. Yeah, we had to do that.
Good. Okay. Any other questions? Have we got some more? Shankar, welcome back again. Sorry, I was pointing more towards, I don't know if you recall his previous question. Sorry, I was pointing more towards identifying and defining from a designer perspective in PQAP process. I'm
still not exactly sure about the question. So maybe we can take this question offline.
I
think this is a little bit more complex. I need to understand really what the background of this question is.
So Shankar, what's going to happen is please drop more of your questions into the comments section, and Andreas will jump on these right after the show and start to answer those. So hopefully we can satisfy your question. But thanks again.
Yep.
Any other questions? Maybe the last couple. Nilanjan, were the integrations to other upstream and downstream systems included in implementation?
Well,
ERP,
okay.
la, la, la.
Well, as I said, the ERP system, yes, was integrated. And the plan is in the next phase to also then, well, actually, we will have to most likely completely re-implement the manufacturing execution system, MES, and then integrate that as well.
Yep.
But currently that was not done.
Okay.
And then, of course, CAD is integrated. If that, would be considered upstream, yes.
Into 3DX or up into ERP?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, everything goes from CATIA. Obviously, the product structure goes into Innovia, and then from Innovia into the ERP system.
Got it. Okay. Very good. Let's pick the last one, maybe two questions. What do we got? Bakala, welcome back. I assume there was an ERP integration. What was the ERP software and how was the integration done? Was it to point or through a middleware? I think you were saying you hadn't quite concluded that yet. Was that right?
No, the ERP the ERP was done, and that's Oracle manufacturing. It was a point-to-point integration.
Okay, got it. Alrighty, let's pick last question before we jump into the feed after the show. Mikhaila, did you use any specific tools for CAD conversion from SolidWorks to CATIA? If it was done manually, I believe the efforts would have been huge, that's for sure.
Yeah, manually, obviously, that would not be possible. Yes, we used, in the end, we used the software from Elysium that basically converted first the data. It was not easy. Yep. Basically, the Elysium software converted the data from SolidWorks to CATIA V5.
Okay.
And then we had to convert everything from CATIA V5 to CATIA V6 with the Dassault migration tools.
Perfect. Good. Go on. One last question. I hope you're okay with that, Andreas.
Oh yeah. Hey, keep it going.
One last one. What we got? Anything? Maybe we haven't.
Oh, hey. Oh, no, here.
One here from Keanu. Did you integrate? I think we probably already handled that. Did you integrate CAD through to ERP? I think you've answered that one. So
yes, we did, yeah.
We're good. Thank you, everyone. Please keep the questions coming in. Keep dropping them in the bottom. We're just going to say thanks to Andreas for joining us on the show. Before I round it up at the end, tell you about next week. But thanks again, Andreas. That's been really good. Really enjoyed that. Congratulations on your successful go live, of course. And
thank you.
To subsequent phases. Yeah,
it's always fun to have another successful project. That's of course that's great. And thank you for the opportunity to be here with you.
Pleasure. Thanks again, Andreas.
Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before we go, let's just tell you what is coming up next week. Next week, we are talking aviation sector, a sector that has been decimated by COVID. How are we going to get people back in the air? What should airports and airlines be doing to restore confidence to fly, and how 3D visualization can help that process? Yes, next week, I am joined by a great group from Dassault, from the US, from Germany, from France, the global lead of A&D aftermarket, a hugely experienced group of experts with many years at Airbus, at Sabre. In fact, we've got a collective 60 years in aviation on the show. They'll be with us for our first high-speed panel discussion around getting us back in the air as soon as we can. You're going to see a trailer in a second, but in the meantime, have a great few days ahead. Thanks for joining us. Have a great one ahead.
Overnight, seemingly, airports became ghost towns. This is what your airport experience is going to look like. This is what your in-flight experience is going to look like. We just need the full travel ecosystem to be collaborative and partners. And so we offer this collaborative capability within our platform to virtualize, from a modeling in 3D fashion, all of these different phases of the passenger journey.
This is the reason why Dassault Systèmes, using and leveraging the different solutions based on simulation and high quality rendering, have developed solutions to support the airline, the airport, in order to evaluate the new processes at the different steps of the passenger journey.